Good day, everyone. We are Group 5 from Section Z28, and we will be reporting our Case Study 1 in relation to Brunei and ASEAN. We are Manansala, Quito, Tubalia, and Villaflores.
Brunei Darussalam, one of the countries in Southeast Asia who is well known for its large exports of crude oil, petroleum products, and liquefied natural gases. Now, these exports have significantly contributed to its economic prosperity. However, Brunei has not always been this economically stable or independent. Back in 1888, Brunei Darussalam became a British protectorate after signing a treaty of protection with the British. This arrangement lasted for nearly 150 years, until Brunei gained full independence on January 1, 1984. Shortly after, on January 7, 1984, which was 6 days after their independence, Brunei has joined the ASEAN. Now, this strategic move was crucial for the new nation, as it would provide the necessary support for its stability and growth as a country. With this in mind, it can be understood that the collaboration and support from the ASEAN countries greatly contributed to Brunei's early development. By aligning with its neighboring countries, Brunei was able to strengthen its economy through trade agreements and investment opportunities. The ASEAN's initiatives to enhance regional economic cooperation have significantly benefited Brunei. As a part of the ASEAN Free Trade Area or AFTA, Brunei has enjoyed the reduction of tariffs and increased trade opportunities within the region. Now, this integration helped diversify its economy, traditionally reliant on oil and gas, by attracting foreign investments and boosting intra ASEAN trade. Now, as the AFTA provided a great reduction of tariffs in Southeast Asian countries, it aims to integrate and create a regional market for Southeast Asia. This initiative combined all ASEAN economies into a single production base, targeting a market of 500 million people. Which is why it is not surprising for Brunei, an oil rich country, which is usually in high demand, to see this as an opportunity to grow and stabilize as a country.
Now, let's look at the political situation of Brunei along with the ASEAN, starting with a brief introduction about Brunei's political landscape. And this comes that Brunei Darussalam is actually an absolute monarchy that has been led by Sultan Hassan al Bolkiah, who has been in power since 1967. As the Sultan, he would hold the full executive authority and serve as both the head of state and the head of the government. This concentration of power includes being the Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, Minister of Finance, and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. The political system in Brunei is characterized by the lack of an elected legislature and limited true political pluralism. Now let's look at the key figures in power. First of all is the Sultan, the absolute monarch. His decisions and policies shape the entire political landscape of Brunei. His leadership emphasizes conservative Islamic values and strict control over political and social life, which we will get through later. Next is the Crown Prince, who is the heir of the throne and is involved in state affairs and often represents Brunei in international forums. Last but not least, we have the key ministers, who are basically just the Sultan's immediate family members and mostly loyalists who occupy significant ministerial positions, ensuring tight control over the executive functions of the government. To this, Brunei's national philosophy, Malay Islamic monarchy, undermines its governance and societal norms by emphasizing Malay culture, Islamic values, and the monarchy. The ideology shapes the national's identity, influencing politics, law, and education. MIB supports the Sultan's absolute authority, promoting Malay Islamic culture and implementing Sharia law, as evidenced by the 2014 Penal Code. However, it also raises human rights concerns, including strict penalties, restricted religious freedom, and limited freedom of speech. Thus, while MIB fosters an actual unique cultural and political framework, it continues to prompt global discussions on its implications within the ASEAN.
Brunei's economic foundation rests firmly upon its oil and gas sector, driving a significant portion of its GDP and government revenue. The country is one of the largest oil producers in the ASEAN region and the whole Southeast Asia. For over 9 decades, the oil and gas industries have fueled the country's growth and development, as the energy sector alone contributed 64.7% to Brunei's GDP. Here are the statistics from 2016 illustrating oil consumption, production, and exports in Brunei, highlighting the nation's wealth in this industry. Next, here are some data from 2022 on oil production and trade demonstrating Brunei's significant output. This slide also displays the primary destinations for petroleum gas exports in 2022, specifically the fastest growing exports, such as countries like Malaysia, Japan, and Thailand. Despite the mentioned advancements, Brunei faces a critical economic challenge in terms of their over-reliance on hydrocarbon resources. This dependency, providing over half of the nation's income, renders Brunei vulnerable to economic shocks, evident in the stagnant growth after COVID-19 pandemic in 2023. Significantly, crude oil production has fallen from a peak of 220,000 barrels per day in 2006 to less than 90,000 barrels per day in 2003. With the upstream oil and gas sector, its anticipated shrinkage poses a significant concern. Efforts to diversify into non-oil and gas sectors such as agriculture, fisheries, tourism have failed. Research-rich nations like the UAE and Saudi Arabia have tried to decrease their dependence on hydrocarbon revenues, but most diversification efforts have failed. In fact, there is no proven method or blueprint for diversifying away from hydrocarbon dependency, indicating a formidable change ahead of Brunei, requiring extensive investment and policy changes for a successful transition. Lastly, presented is a bar chart depicting gas and oil production in 2024 from the Economic Research and Development Impact Department, showing how oil and gas production presented low records in 2023 after pandemic.
To address the aforementioned issues, Brunei utilized ASEAN through various strategies. Starting with the historical issue of newfound independence and vulnerability, Brunei began preparing the implementation of internal and external policies. Due to its regional geopolitics, Brunei was also approached by nearby countries to help with external relations. Last, Brunei convinced ASEAN that their economic status as a country rich in gas and oil would benefit the association rather than become a detriment. As for political conflicts with Malaysia, Indonesia's sponsorship of Brunei's independence and support of its membership led to the Malaysia Brunei relationship being redefined through resolving issues. As a result, technical and administrative exchanges were initiated, whether through training of officials or providing education institutions. Moreover, Southeast Asian countries such as Malaysia and Singapore laid the foundation of Brunei's knowledge on ASEAN and world affairs through seminars and delegations.
Through policy reforms and help from the ASEAN, an economic growth beyond oil and gas can be achieved by the country. Currently, Brunei is already liberalizing trade and business regulations and seeking foreign investment ahead of the launch of the ASEAN Economic Community's free trade area from late 2015, intensifying the urgency to diversify beyond oil and gas. There is also a Wasan Brunei 2035 inaugurated by the country which promotes investments beyond the said industry. Here, Brunei tries to leverage the country's location virtually in the middle of the ASEAN region as a base from which to do business.
Seeing the conditions Brunei was under, the ASEAN was fully willing to accept Brunei's membership, with Indonesia clearing any ill desires against the country, and Malaysia lending help in terms of security. While the invitation of Brunei was mentioned as early as 1978, not only until June 1981 during the ASEAN Foreign Ministers Conference in Manila was it formally discussed, with Brunei allowed to observe the meeting. By 1984, when Brunei gained independence, the country was given the choice to become a full member after the Sultan wanted to establish relationships with Southeast Asian countries. As for the economic issue of Brunei in terms of oil and gas, ASEAN responded via the Investment Incentive Act, which aims to encourage Brunei to establish economic enterprises by providing tax advantages. Additionally, the formation of the Ministry of Industry and Primary Resources aided in the development of industries and trade with the National Industrial Development Plan. Now, were these courses of action by ASEAN effective? In terms of the economy, Brunei was projected to greatly benefit from its relationship and proximity with Indonesia and Malaysia, wherein their oil and gas productions would contribute to ASCO and their petroleum supply would help during energy crises. Also,
Brunei would be of great value if the ASEAN members choose to prioritize regional cooperation over external markets. However, the effectiveness of ASEAN's response may be hindered by the lack of adequate personnel, which may improve over time. Another possible limitation would be Brunei's political setup due to their affiliation with Britain. Although the non interference nature of ASEAN allows Brunei to be under no pressure to alter its political system.
And lastly, for the recommendations. For the historical part, as it was stated earlier, that Brunei was under the British rule. This event occurred due to the fact that Brunei was having internal struggles and kept having their territories being threatened by neighboring countries. So, what Brunei lacked during these times were allies to help them out during their times of need, which the ASEAN is currently playing the part of. So, a recommendation here would be for Brunei to strengthen their ties with the ASEAN and other Southeast Asian nations, as doing so would only provide positive effects for their country and the association.
Brunei can address the political implications of its Malay Islamic monarchy by leveraging ASEAN initiatives to enhance political control and reduce absolutism. Brunei can participate in ASEAN International Commission on Human Rights meetings for transparency and accountability. Furthermore, it may promote Mali Islamic culture that can be supported through the ASEAN Social Cultural Community Blueprint of 2025, the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive, and the ASEAN Youth Volunteer Program for cross cultural understanding within the ASEAN region. For Sharia law implementation, Brunei can collaborate with the ASEAN Law Association and engage in ASEAN judicial cooperation, addressing human rights concerns that can be facilitated by participating in the ASEAN Human Rights Dialogue. And last but not least, is to mitigate the restrictions on religious freedom and freedom of speech. Brunei can engage in the ASEAN Interfaith Dialogue sessions and participate in the ASEAN Forum on Migration Labor, more commonly known as AFML. And last but not least, for the economic, Brunei can address its economic dependency on oil by leveraging ASEAN initiatives to diverse its economy. Participation in the ASEAN Economic Community, the blueprint of 2025, which will promote sectors such as tourism, digital economy, and financial services. By joining the ASEAN Smart Cities Network and implementing the ASEAN Digital Integration Framework, Brunei can become a driven innovation and attract tech investments just like Singapore. And this can lead to the collaboration with the ASEAN Center for Energy and the ASEAN Action Plan for Energy Cooperation, which will support renewable energy transition aside from just using oil and gas, and enhancing trade and investment through the ASEAN Free Trade Area, or better known as AFTA, which was signed by the six countries, including the Philippines, and ASEAN Investment Area, which will diverse exports and attract foreign direct investments, strengthening human capital via the ASEAN University Network and the ASEAN Qualifications Reference Framework, which will foster a skilled workforce. And additionally, adopting the ASEAN Tourism Strategic Plan, or better known as ATSP, and engaging with the ASEAN ministers on agriculture and forestry, which will boost their tourism and agricultural productivity, further diversifying Brunei's economy.
That is all for our presentation. Thank you so much for listening.